Okay, so in this lesson, I'm actually going to walk you through the schemas for these lists here, right? So we created this task list, put some sample data inside of it, and now we need to load this up with issues. You would notice that the tasks and the issues have the same data because we didn't go and create, in our last video, we didn't go and create this issues list. So what I've done, if we switch over to the SharePoint site, if I go into site contents, I went ahead and created these issues lists, and then I actually added more items to my task list, and then the team I didn't create. One of the things I want to do, I want to confirm the schema for these, right? And then I'm going to walk you through how to use ChatGPT to generate sample data, so that way you get enough data to play with as you're building your app out. And this is going to be a common use case because, we always build these list schemas and the data repository to hold this data, but we sometimes have a hard time of one, coming up with the data, and two, coming up with enough data for it to be significant in that way. So what I'm going to do, let's do this. Let's just first confirm the schema for each. So if you look at our wireframe, let me just put this in preview mode. So for the issues, we need to have task status, owner, and creator, and then the priority. Well, the creator is one that we get for free because, the out of the box, you get a handful of columns, so just call it 7 for free, right? So you get the out of the box title field. You get created by created, modified by modified, and then a host of others. But usually those are the 5 that we try to work within our schema because you have to deal with them some way, somehow, because it's actually capturing a lot of useful information for you. So the title in this scenario would just be the task name, and this actually should be issue. I'm going to rename this. So this should be the name of the issue. The status would be a choice column. Owner would be a people column. This would be one that's that pulls from your Active Directory. Created is a free one, which gets created every time an item is created, and the priority is the choice column. So that's going to be issues. And then if you look at team, I'm going to reuse that title column for the role. And we'll talk about this when we get to add the add module, how I handle this, because though I'm using the title column to hold the value, I'm still going to drive the user from a drop-down list of available roles. And we're going to have that drop-down list of roles pulled from a separate SharePoint list. And then the value that's stored can be a single line text, aka title, because we're just storing the selected value. And then we're going to have the name that task is associated with. That's a people column. Email address. I'm struggling with this one. Right now, we're going to store this, but it seems like we don't need to store it because if this is a people column, this will already have the email address associated with that user. But we'll talk through different ways on how to solve for this. And then the hours is going to be the number of hours available to that. I don't know if this is capacity or available. Let's just call this available. That makes sense, I think. And then the number of tasks completed are still open. I don't know. Again, I don't know what if this is current or if it's historic or whatever the case may be. But let's go in with the assumption this is current, right? So we're going to need the ability to store that. Now, I can create this real time, like every time this is loaded, but that's going to be a performance issue. So instead of generating this real time, like on the fly as this is displayed, we probably have a batch job that runs overnight that populates the SharePoint list. And this is just loading up the value there, right? So let's go in with that assumption. All right. So with that said, if you look at my issues list, it's going to be just what we talked about. So I have title, that's going to be for my task. I have a status. I have the owner. I have the description, which is not shown in the mockup, but we need. And then I have the priority. And that's going to be my issues list. Very, very straightforward. Again, if you look at these icons next to the column name, it tells you the type of column that is. So this is single line text. That's an icon for multi-line text. This is the icon for choice. That's the icon for people. And that's the icon for choice. Okay, so those are the types. You can pause this video. I mean, I was assuming that you would run off and start creating this, in between videos. But if you haven't created it, I would say pause this video and create the schema to match this, right? The next one would be for task. And when we get to the task, Again, this is the task name is the repurpose of the title column, just rename. And we talked about how to rename this, right? Make sure you're just not renaming it here in the view, because that doesn't rename the actual column. It just renamed the column for that particular view. The real way to rename the out of the box title is to go gear icon, list settings, click on the title and rename it there. Status field is a choice column. Owner is a people column. Points is a number column. Project ID is a single line text. Now, this could be a number field, but again, we're doing single line text because we're going to auto generate that project ID off of the project list, which we haven't defined yet. So as of right now, for my test, this will always be blank, but eventually we're going to wire this up to where then we can associate these tasks to a particular project. But for this purpose of the project, or the purpose of the dev cycle, we're just going to leave this empty. And then description was a multi-line text. That's just the description of the task. Okay. And then the last one, but not least, we have the team. This is what is going to store all the information about the team members associated to this project. This ID would be the project ID. Again, this is where I repurposed that title column, just renamed it project ID, still going with the single line text. For the name, that's a person column. Email, single line text. Hours worked, number column. Number of tasks, number column. Again, we could eventually load these up real time, but we're concerned with performance within the application. So instead of those rolling up real time, it would be an understanding with the business that there's a batch process that will run, load these values in, and then the only thing our app is going to do is just run, show those available hours. And then we'll come to an understanding of how frequent that would be loaded by like some type of Power Automate batch job or something like that. Okay, so that's our schema. That's how we're loaded. What I really want to take some time out here, again, this is September of 2024, August of 2024. And with this, AI is top of mind. It should be top of mind and should be ingrained within everything that you do within the workplace, right? It should be just part of your day-to-day. In that spirit of having AI ingrained in our day-to-day, I'm going to use AI to generate some sample data. And this is, here's the technique on how I would do that. So again, for the purpose of this, the first thing I would do is, I'm not going to start with team because this could be a little tricky. Yeah, this is going to be a little tricky. So I'm not going to... Should I try it? I think this is going to fail because I didn't practice it. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna fail publicly. I'm gonna fail live, right? And then we'll figure out the solutions together. So I will say that for you. But for the sake of getting through this and not fumbling too much on how you would generate sample data, let's do with something that's a little bit more straightforward. So I'm gonna go with the issues list. So in the issues list, I want to generate data. I'm not worried about the project ID because for this stage of the cycle, I'm going to leave this blank. I do want the AI to generate sample issues, titles, sample description, the status, the owner I wanted to leave blank. Again, I have to be careful with the owner because this is tied to Active Directory. So it can't pick a random name. I need to have it confined to certain names. And I don't know the best way to do that based on our technique. So I'm gonna skip owner for now. And then priority is what I'm gonna set. So the first thing you want to do is that the columns that you expect the AI to generate, let's create a view with those columns. So I'm gonna just take the all items column, which is going to have mostly everything that I could possibly have, and narrow that down. And I'm going to call this the batch load. I already have a batch load, so I'm going to call this batch load 2, right? And you and I are going to work with this together. And I'm okay with this being the public view. Public or private doesn't matter. It just means that you're the only one that can see it. So here I'm going to do a batch load 2. The first thing I want to do is associate or group the columns that I expect the AI to provide. So to do that, I'm just going to column settings, show hide columns, and uncheck project ID because I'm not expecting that. I'm gonna leave title, I'm gonna leave description, I'm gonna leave status, uncheck owner, I'm not expecting that one, and I'm gonna leave the priority, right? And then hit apply. And what's that going to do? That's going to streamline this. It's going to make it very, very easy to work with in a copy paste situation. So now what I'm going to do is edit this, have it switch this to edit in grid view. And then I'm going to save this view as such. I'm not going to change the name because really I just wanted to save the changes with the same view name, right? So now this is ready to rock and roll. If I go to this last item, I can click here and it will let me add a new item or paste some things in. All right, so now we have this primed and ready to go. Let's switch over to ChatGPT. All right, so in ChatGPT, what I tend to do, I tend to use 4.0 Omni. So every time I'm interacting with ChatGPT, I'm always going after the premium because I want the latest and greatest models that I can deal with, right? So here, I'm going to just give it, this is basic prompt AI structure. The first thing is your prompt should really be defined into 3 main chunks. One, you give it a profile or a personality, like you are a X. Second, you tell it what you want, like what the task is, the detail of the task out. And then third, you tell it the expected output on how to deliver the results of that task. So let's just follow that simple framework. That's a 1, 2, 3 framework for prompt engineering. So I'm going to say something like you are a content Okay, so here we go. So let me just zoom in on this one. So you are a content creator that creates fake data that can be used for testing applications, right? So this is his personality or persona and what it's doing and somewhat a reason why it's doing what it's doing, right? Because I'm a firm believer and I've seen the better results when you really talk to the AI almost as if you're training an employee, right? Like imagine there's someone that's in the organization, they say, hey, I got bandwidth, I can help you out. Then they come over to your department, your team, and you need to explain the task to them. That's the level, like when I write this, I really feel like I'm writing this for a purpose, a person. Right. So I tell it what its role is, what it's going to do and why it's going to do it. And then I'm going to tell it what to do. I need you to create 50 sample data for the following schema. The data should be in Excel format so I can easily paste it into a SharePoint list. Right. So once we have that, then I'm going to give it the format. And the format is going to be exactly what we have here. So I'm going to tell it the title, the description. I'm going to tell it first is creating issues. Then I'm going to say, okay, the issues list have title, description, status, and priority. And notice how I handle the choice columns for status and priority. Okay, so here, so when I get down to the output, I'm letting it know that I'm looking for issues created, and then I'm giving it an example of the application that it should create these issues around. And the reason why I'm taking the time out to get very detailed on how this application here is an example of a contract management application is created. One, telling the UI is created using PowerApps, the workflow and reminders created using Power Automate, and the contracts themselves and related data stored in SharePoint. I'm giving it that level of detail because when it generates the issues, it may say it's a logic issue. It may say it could be common issues related to the technologies that's been used to create this project, this application, so on and so forth. And then I tell it that here's the schema for the issues list. This is probably the most important. And I'm really just modeling what I have in that list schema for the issues list. So I have the title, description. Notice I'm not giving it any insight of what to do here. This is the benefit of using AI. I'm giving it the status, and then notice in parentheses, I'm giving it the choice options for the status. I just imply that, assuming it will pick it up. And then I do priority the same way. And now we're here to execute. So what it's going to do now is go through and think on this line. And again, this is why using ChatGPT 4.0 in this scenario is super important because the things that I imply and the things I assume is smart enough to pick up really depends on the model that you're using, right? And again, we're very early stages with this AI. This is as dumb as it's going to be, and it's very, very interesting. In some scenarios, scary, what we're going to get into when we get this AI. Okay, so here, let me go ahead and click on the file. So it actually generated an Excel file. So let me just slide this over here and let's just see how well it put this together. it actually skipped a step. Oh no. Oh no. This is not acting like 4.0 Omni at all. Okay, let's spank it a little bit. All right, so I'm telling it to course correct itself. One, you want to say thank you, right? Because a lot of people philosophers say eventually they're going to take over and they will remember who were nice and who wasn't. All right, whatever. But I need actual titles, and I need actual descriptions, and I need sample issues to use for the fake data, and not the generic 1, 2, 3 and description 1, 2, 3. So let's see if it fixes itself. Okay, so let's take a look at it. It went ahead and so realistic issues and titles seem like it got it now. Let's take a look at the data that it actually generated. Okay, so the Excel file on the right is the second attempt. The Excel file on the left is the first attempt. And here you can see we're actually looking a lot better. I'm not going to necessarily go through these, but contract archival error. So it has a description of that, missed deadline, contract signature, a description of that, so on and so forth. So this is great. Like, I really don't care, like, if even if this makes sense or not. And this is way better than lorem ipsum, right? What we would normally default to, and it's so much better than issue 1, issue 2, whatever. And you want these real world scenarios, right? Because you're building an application that would display dynamic content. And you want this variation, so that way if there's issues with spacing or, so on and so forth, you catch that much earlier in the process, which is why you want something that's more realistic. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to select, I go to the bottom right edge or the right end of the cell, and I go over to the top, and I don't want the headers. I just want the content in between. Let me enable editing. I don't like editing because I don't think I can copy this. Hold on, let me readjust these columns again. Okay, so in here, I'm just copying this. I'm doing Control-C to copy. And now I want to go to my issues list. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm still not 1,000% on how to correctly select this cell. To where I'm copying in rows and not trying to copy in all the data into a single cell. So the way that I see it, it seems like you just want to click on this once to get the entire cell highlighted. If you have a blinking cursor, I think that's what you do not want. So I'm going to just do a Control-V here, and nothing happened. Hold on. Let me get rid of this extra cell at the bottom. So let me delete this. All right, go to this very last one and paste that in. Nope. It's so finicky. There we go. I had to play around with it a couple of times. So I created a new one, and right after creating a new one, I just highlighted the cell, did a Control-V, and it seemed like it took. And this is just working like gangbusters, right? So there are my new 50 selected one. This is my empty cell, so I'm going to delete this. And now I have some realistic data to play with, even though it's fake, right? So now that that's done, I want to do the exact same thing for my task. So here I just go to the task. Again, go ahead and create your batch load view. Make sure you open that up in edit and grid mode. Move your columns in the order that you expect them to be in. And now, since we did all the work initially to get our issues in there, which should be a lot simplified here because the context within ChatGPT is maintained. So now we can simply go here and it says, okay, this is great. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the previous context and say, okay, this is great. Now I need 50 tasks, developing the contracts application. Here's my schema for my task list. And then I just simply go through the match my view for my batch load for the task list. And when they come to my choice columns, I'm just putting in parentheses the available choice options. For points, even though this is not a choice column but a number field, I know I want this to be limited to the Fibonacci numbering system for Agile, which is one of the Agile options you have for sizing. And then I have another column for description. And now I'm going to go ahead and let it rip and see what happens. Okay, so it said it generated the 50 tasks. Let's take a look at the Excel file that it created. Okay, so this is the Excel file that it created. Implement a multi-language support, build contract template library, design UX for contract submission process, test the contract auto renewal process, so on and so forth. So this is beautiful. And then it has descriptions related to that. It has my statuses confined to the finite list of status options. It's using my Fibonacci numbering system, which is great. And now I just want to be able to copy this. So let me just widen up column D from my description column, select it here, go to the top and select it here and copy it. All right, let's see if we get a little bit more lucky this time with pasting this in. So title, status, points, description, then go here. Let me just do add new item, select this guy. Nope, don't want my cursor there. All right, Control V. All right, so that did it. All right, so then it's just going to go ahead and paste this in. All right, and just like that, I have some really good sample data to work with. Okay, so as promised, let's see if we can fumble together and figure out how to tackle the team, right? Team is tricky for two reasons. One, the majority of this is the name and email, right, of the user, and then hours worked and the number of tasks, which is easy. Project ID we're going to drop. So, okay, so let's do this. Let's just continue down our process, right? So save view as, batch load, right? Let's go ahead and tweak the columns that we want to show. I'm going to drop project ID on purpose. The role I do want to include, that was not included. I'm actually put role between name, email, role, and here. Then I'm hit apply. Okay, so for this one, what makes this tricky? One, when I put in, let's just do this edit view. So if I do a new item, I know if I start typing like Deshaun Clark, it will find it. I just don't know if I can paste in the word Deshaun Clark and associate it with my email address, right? So that's going to be the trick. So what I'm going to do, the same way that I did the other ones, I'm going to give it the name, and then parentheses, I'm going to give it like 4 users, and then I'm going to give it the email, and then parentheses, I'm going to give you the 4 email addresses. And then for role, I'm going to tell it to pick common roles for this type of project. I'm going to be generic just like that. For hours worked, I'm going to say pick a number between, random number between 2 and 200. And number of tasks, random number between 5 and 50, right? And I'm going to just have it generate this data. The one that I'm really, really concerned with is the name. And obviously, I want this name to be realistic to the email. And if they pick, every time they pick Deshaun Clark, they always have to pick the D Clark email address for that's related to this, right? And for the sake of this video, I'm gonna do fake emails, and then I'm gonna do some fake names that we have here, right? So let's just see when this is really testing the intelligence of the artificial intelligence. And let's just see how smart it is and how consistent it can be with related data in this way. Okay, so we're going to really test it out. So I'll say, okay, great. Now I need to create 10 team members for this project. I have specific names and emails to use. So, we have to be consistent so that it matches with the real user and the AD. These are the users and their associated emails. And then here I'm going to say create a schema. Here's the team schema to use, sorry. The name, the email. Notice I didn't tell it which ones to use out of the sample users. Role, use common roles for a project. Hours, 2 to 200. Tasks, 5 to 50. And let's see what happens. All right, so the Excel file is created. Let's download it, see how close we get. So here I'm gonna go ahead and open that Excel file. Drum roll, please. All right, so here we have, oh wow, it even made up names because it said you asked for more team members and you did provide names. So it went through and added some other ones. It followed the naming convention for the email, which is super smart. As far as the roles, software developer, business analyst, system architect, very generic common roles for this type of project, number of hours, the number of tasks associated with them, and go from there. Okay, so because we have some that are outside of our wheelhouse or outside of our group, let's just see how SharePoint handles these. So I'm going to just copy and paste this. All right, go to my SharePoint list to add. Again, just select. Let me select off there. I got the cell highlighted without the blinking cursor, and then paste it in. Multiple entries match. Please click to resolve. This only should be one Deshaun Clark. Why would you have more Deshaun Clarks? Okay, so what I'm doing now is just going through and selecting these, and then the ones that are out of bounds, it's going to throw errors. So I'm going to actually delete these if it'll allow me to. Okay, so I'm going to have to remove these names. It won't even allow me to save it. It'll allow me to save this column empty because I don't have a required field. But yeah, anything that was not in our Active Directory, it got kicked out. So I have two options here. So let me just go through and just reuse my people on this one, because I actually don't want to lose these entries. I think they're very beneficial. So I'm going to just put in multiple roles for different people. And then I have to obviously go and update my email, but I'm not going to do that for this. All right, cool. All right, so that's going to be that. So for the most part, I think it tripped up on my name because I do have multiple accounts. One as an admin account and one as a regular user account. But all the other ones where it was just like one entry for the first name, last name in the Active Directory, it seemed to take it. This email is just a generic single line text, so there was nothing to match up, so I was okay there. It did a really good job with the roles, really good job with the number of hours worked, number of tasks. So this is fantastic. So now we have some fake data that we can play with. So 70 issues, 70 tasks, 71 issues, 70 tasks, and 10 team members. So now in the next video, what we can do is to jump into Power Apps Studio and start to build out our grid system and our process for adding records to these repositories.